Israel is intensifying its assault on Gaza. It comes as Palestinian militants continue to fire rockets into Israel on the 5th day of hostilities. Israel's military says air and ground forces are involved in today's attacks, but have not entered Gaza. Some 119 people have been killed so far in Gaza, 8 in Israel since fighting began on Monday.
The Israeli military has begun air and ground attacks against Gaza following an unprecedented assault unleashed by Israel's military on the Gaza Strip on Thursday night. A statement from the Israeli military says that before midnight, its forces struck Gaza with airstrikes and artillery as rockets from the Palestinian enclave continue to be fired towards Israel. The armed wing of Hamas, known as Al-Qassam brigades and other less influential militant groups, fired 150 barrages of rockets from the Gaza Strip into Israel. Within several minutes of the assault, Israeli military fired 150 bombs, striking different targets in various places off the Gaza Strip. Hamas says it will respond to Israeli attacks with more rockets. Meanwhile, the Palestinian government has not made any response to the new round of Israeli military attacks. This comes amid international efforts to broker a truce between Israel and Hamas in the most severe flare-up of conflicts between the two sides since 2014.
We are deeply concerned with the loss of life among civilians, especially among children. Palestinians have a right to live in security and to live in peace, just as Israelis do. And so we are working hard to encourage all sides to stand down, to de-escalate, to return to calm.
In the face of serious escalation of the situation between Israel and Palestine in years, Egypt has reportedly offered Israel a one-year agreement for a ceasefire as part of mediation between Israel and Hamas, but Israel is yet to respond. And this comes after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told his cabinet Wednesday night that Israel had officially rejected a ceasefire proposal with Hamas. The latest wave of violent clashes between Israel and the Palestinians was mainly sparked by an Israeli plan to evict some Palestinian families from a neighborhood in the disputed East Jerusalem.
Let's get some perspective on the issue. Director General of the Bully Tax Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies, Professor Bola Akinterinwa, joins us now. He's in Yaba. Professor, thank you for making time to be with us on the program. Despite calls for de-escalation of the conflict, as we've heard from many international partners, Israel is stepping up its attacks on Gaza. What can be done at this point to resolve the crisis?
I think we can look at the issue from 4 angles. The first one is for both sides to recognize the need for mutual existence. The moment Israel, the Arab world in general, do not recognize the fact that they both have right to existence, then it will be a problem that will remain. The second issue is that there is the need to change the strategy from being conflict management to conflict resolution. What is generally being done now is to manage the crisis and the conflict rather than seeking an ultimate enduring solution to it. A third approach to it is that it is not possible for the United States to have partisan interest and still want to be a mediator. That is not workable. A mediator must not have any bias for any particular person or state in dispute. More significantly, I think that there is the need for both parties to reckon with the numerous resolutions already adopted by the United Nations Security Council. If we are able to go along that spirit of the resolutions, I think we can be dreaming, and rightly too, of a possible end to the misunderstanding.
I don't know if you've observed, these international partners, the US, the UK, even the United Nations, they're all calling for an end to the hostilities between the two, but nobody really is wading in the water here to try to stop this. So we heard the Egyptian, in the reports just before this interview, Egypt offering, a deal with Israel in order for the airstrikes to stop. What do you make of President Joe Biden's position on this matter? Because he spoke yesterday about it, and the only thing he said was he'd spoken to Prime Minister Netanyahu, and he's hoping that, this would end soon.
Well, I think that we can explain his position from three perspectives. The first perspective is that his position is quite consistent with the United Nations stand, which is to have, two states. We have a state of Israel and state for Palestine. So in this case, he will be right. The second perspective is that, look, his position is just protecting the national interest, nothing more than that. Because in this case, as I will leave this one to the third perspective, now the Biden administration wants to shift emphasis from Middle East to China, that China has become more of a strategic interest than the Middle East. In the Middle East, the United States is having difficulty in identifying, in having a reliable, mark the word, reliable partner on which to, depend. So in this case, Israel and the Palestinians, they do not have any credible person that they can rely on. The U.S. now believes that, look, in this case, if you look at Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, the first day, the second day, not later than that, they normally appoint someone or make a statement on the issue of this Israelo-Arab conflict. But what Joe Biden has done in this particular case is to say, look, the Israelis have the right to legitimate self-defense. But in this case, when you look at the critical problem, he's also supporting the Arabs by saying two-state solution. So in this case, this ambivalent position is safer. Joe Biden is trying to be the friend of everyone and not an enemy to any one of them. So this is a strategic, diplomatic stance which is commendable.
Yes, Professor, and indeed you did point out that there is mistrust of the United States in the Middle East because of so many activities with President Trump, and then now President Joe Biden planning scheduling the pullout of American troops from Afghanistan and many parts of the Middle East. So thank you again for sharing your thoughts and your analysis on the show.
Thank you.